I just finished My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh, and what on earth was this book? What? I okay, I loved it. I think it's a really good book actually. Like further confirmation that I adore this writer. But at the same time I'm worried. Is she okay? Like I don't know much about her personal life. Is she in a good place? Well, that sounds like she's dead. I mean, mentally, is she okay? Because this book, it's giving millennial bell jar, and we all saw what happened to Sylvia Plath. So I'm genuinely concerned. Like, I'm gonna have to do some googling, and I'm gonna have to look into it. Um, Unless somebody else can tell me, like, is Ottessa Moshfegh okay? Because this book, oh, cuts deep. Like, it's simultaneously so bleak and yet also so relatable. Like it's demented, but you also see yourself in it. It's a weird one. We'll talk about it. This is actually my second experience with Ottessa Moshfegh. Last year I read Lapvona, which was in a similar vein of crazy, but it was so like far removed from modern day stuff because it was this medieval village, and so it just felt very flippant and as if you were reading like a Monty Python sketch. And so it almost transpired into more like a black comedy, and I didn't mind that. This, oh, felt so much more personal. I was experiencing my own quarter life crisis through the narrators. Like I was truly feeling it. Like if you're like a down and out 20 something, this book is going to hit you up. I mean, even if you're not a 20 something, I think this book would upset anyone because I mean, sure, it's about disaffected youth, but it's also just, you know, complaints about existence, which yeah, I hear you. It's a lot. It's an awful lot. It's also very much a cautionary tale about privilege and how if you remove the need to fight for something, you know, if you have nothing to strive against or work towards, life kind of loses all of that oomph, and it's sort of just this daydream where you spend your weeks sort of going through time with nothing really to care about or worry for. And it doesn't help that she's lost both of her parents as well. You know, it seems as though she cares more about her parents than she would like to let on, because she gets very pent up about the thought of selling the family house, and then she does this experiment where she's like sleeping for 3 days at a time and taking this infermetrol. Is that even a real drug? Probably, but she's taking this drug that's putting her into a sleep. I mean, she's taking an awful lot of drugs actually. Like this was not a good recommendation for the American healthcare system. I mean, what is? But I did enjoy the quackery of it. Her doctor, was it Dr. Tutta? Her like weird quack doctor who kept telling her the most ridiculous things. Loved that. But yeah, this narrator, she was a bit Wednesday Addams esque in the sense that if I compare this to the Bell Jar is so much more depressive. Like she's not fighting back. Whereas this book, she's hateful. She has some real dark, intrusive thoughts. She has some real shady, like her whole relationship with her best friend is rough. Like it's clear that it's a very toxic like dynamic between the two of them, because her friend also has bulimia combined with our main character's sort of strange psychosis fueled by drugs. You know, it's a weird back and forth, but interesting, very interesting. I would say spoiler alert at this point. However, I do think it was pretty telegraphed that this book, because most of it takes place in the year 2001, and then like it's the first half's 2000, the second half's 2001. It was pretty obvious that we were going to build up to the 9/11 terrorist attack because the book is set in New York. And when her best friend is like, oh, I just got promoted, I'm now working in the World Trade Center, it was like, yeah. So when she ended up dying at the end and like jumping out of the tower block building, the window, it was like, yeah, I figured this was where it would end. Can we talk more about our narrator? Ooh, she's a bit like, She's like Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment, but if instead of him snapping and killing other people, he went on like a self-destructive warpath and wanted to like rack his own body. Like that's what this was. Like she was so over existence, not even just life, existence. Like she didn't want consciousness, which I hear you. I hear you every day. It is a struggle. Um, so her quarter life crisis, really, it's just a downward spiral. Like the way she racks her body, the weight loss, the intermittent fatigue, and then the insomnia. Like it's bleak. There's also lots of conversation about art, which makes sense because lots of the world's great thinkers always claim that art was the great escape from, you know, how much of an affliction lot the human experience is. Um, I wish there was more talk about arts, maybe like particular art that the narrator enjoyed, because she talked about how The Death of Marat was her favourite painting, which fab, love that painting. I think it's nice as well because Jean Paul Marat, the historical figure, does have lots of parallels to our main character in the sort of, you know, disdain of life. She was also kind of giving me a bit of Diogenes because she was very cynical and she was like living below her means. Like she had so much money but was just spending every morning going to the bodega, getting 2 cups of coffee from the Egyptians. Like she was living beneath her means so that she could be like more, I suppose, just more realistic about consumerism and how capitalism is like the scourge of humanity, which again, I hear you. I suppose as well as Diogenes, it was also very Henry David Thoreau, but like if Henry David Thoreau didn't make a log cabin in the woods, he just stayed in his flat. He just stayed in his flat and never really spoke to anyone. It was, yeah, it felt oddly philosophical. I do always love about this writer, though, how unapologetically unfiltered they are in their prose. Like, they will write things that I just simply wouldn't read in other books because, you know, not censorship, but just like public sentimentalities. This writer is just like, I will write about anything. And I do enjoy that. It's like, oh, she don't care. You know, the character is so direct, so to the point. Like, their thoughts right on the table. I did wonder as well, do we think Whoopi Goldberg has read this book? Because the main character has a strange obsession with Whoopi Goldberg, which, you know, I say strange, she is a very lovable actor and comedian. And I like that parallel as well, because Whoopi Goldberg is also someone who is quite irreverent. You know, she can insert herself into any universe, film, TV show, and automatically, like, they even say in the book, it becomes like a parody of itself. Like, she has that charisma and that, like, I don't really care, where she's able to be above everything. And I like that the book sort of pays homage to Whoopi Goldberg in that way. So yeah, I don't think this book needs advocacy because it's like a multi-million copy bestseller, I'm sure. But if people are reading it and they are unsure whether or not to continue, because it is one of those characters that is hateable yet also relatable, I would say stick through it. You know, like, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it's so much of an experience that you would feel better on the other end of it. You would at least be like, well, that was a book, you know? Even if you didn't like what was going on, you'd appreciate it for the swing of it. But no, I'm not one of those people. I adore this book. I think I'm going to have to be careful with Ottessa Moshfegh because she hasn't written that many books. And I do have the urge to just completely whack through each one that she has left. Like, pretty soon I'm probably going to have to read Eileen. So we'll see. We will see. But this was fabulous. Like, nightmarish, but fabulous.